Oh my God! So much to talk about this week. The death of Owen Hart and the final season of Breaking Down, not Breaking Down the Ring, Dark Side of the Ring. They're stealing our fucking shtick. There's that to talk about. There is the pay-per-view of AEWs that just finished up. 2020's edition of Double or Nothing. We're going to get into that and more this week as we
break the ring down.
Woo! You don't know what hard times are, Daddy.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. You just made the list.
This right here is a family.
Hey, this is professional wrestler and professional podcaster Colt Boom Boom Cabana.
My name is Killer Cross.
This is The Smoke Show, Scarlett Bordeaux.
What's up, guys? The F Machine, Brian Cage.
This is Ryan from Pro Wrestling Tees.
Sadly, you are not listening to The Art of Wrestling, but you made a decent choice because you're listening.
You are now listening to...
And you're listening
to Breaking Down the Ring.
Breaking Down the Ring.
Breaking Down the Ring.
Breaking Down the Ring.
Breaking Down the Ring. Break it down.
Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening.
I left it on cue, and you were about to get the flashback remix of Ram Jam Black Betty. Yeah, sorry, that was it.
That's awesome.
I don't know where the problem is right now. I'm not sure why it's not playing right now. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the most inappropriate pro wrestling show and stars of AEW's All Out promo. You're listening to Breaking Down the Ring. We are your ring crew.
The new BDR champion, Smikishi.
Koenig 19.
And again, just plain white Z.
And the almighty one, Mikey himself. Look, ladies and gentlemen, it was a busy week. It was an awesome week as far as wrestling is concerned, the in-ring product, things like that. Not so awesome as far as a couple things that we have lost this week. So we're going to start off just talking about that. Number one, Shad Gaspard at the beginning of the week got taken under by a wave when he was swimming with his son. The final thing he did was toss his son to a lifeguard to get him out of the water. And save his life. A couple days later, it was confirmed by the coroner that Shad Gaspard's body had been found washed up a little bit down the way. So unfortunately, he passed away, and that absolutely sucks. Shad Gaspard is widely known as one of those people in wrestling that everybody liked. You know, there was not a bad thing that could be said or that was being said about it. Let's not say that could be said, because anyone can say bad things about anybody. But, you know, how we're going to have a conversation about Owen Hart and the final days of him from the Dark Side of the Ring season finale. Just like Owen Hart, he was universally liked in the wrestling business. And according to a lot of people, that's one of the rarest things that you can be in the wrestling business, is universally liked. So we want to say rest in peace to Shad Gaspard. Before we go into the next one, we'll talk a little bit about Shad Gaspard. Smitty, I'll start with you just because you're in my rotating wheelhouse. Give me some things about Shad Gaspard that you remember, things that, just moments that you should go, holy crap, man, that was awesome. I'm glad to have been able to witness that.
It was more so some of the crazy antics him and JTG and as members of Crime Time in their run WWE. Like one of the biggest things I remember is one time they got William Regal to break character during the whole backstage segment. There was a whole thing where they sold Lita's undergarments.
Why don't you explain what you're talking about with getting William Regal to break the kayfabe? Let's not pretend like everybody knows exactly what you're talking about.
Because I don't. Oh, so this is around the time. So this is around the time when they had the whole dump story. It was a dump payoff for the storyline where Vince McMahon was trying to find his illegitimate son, and they kind of came back. So he pretty much had Teddy Long, Jonathan Coachman, and William Regal backstage with him. And Crime Time just kind of comes backstage and like, oh, you know what? We could be your children because one thing we all like, we like that money. They had a whole catchphrase. Like, we like that money. Yeah. They pretty much kept like doing that little catchphrase. It's sort of like, it was like a soul train around Vince McMahon. First Teddy Long joins, then Coach joins, and then finally William Regal breaks character, like breaks his like stone face, kind of like super serious character. And he just started juking and jabbing around Vince McMahon with everybody else. Going money.
So hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. How do you know that? To me, doesn't sound like breaking character. Breaking character is like when John Cena makes somebody laugh and they're not supposed to laugh. It sounds like Regal was supposed to do this. Like this was part of the skit.
Well, I don't think like it was supposed to be something Regal just don't seem like you say. It's not it wasn't in Regal's character in general to do something like that. Let them like break character, not kayfabe. That's what I say, character.
Yeah, but again, it doesn't sound like they made him do it. It sounds like it.
Well,
was
if it wasn't, I get where he's coming from. I'm not going to wax semantics on this right now because we're talking about the memories that we have of somebody. If Regal breaking character, not kayfabe, it may be just be a slip of the tongue. Continue, Smitty.
Then also there was the whole thing with D-Generation X where they scalped the tickets. I bought the scalp tickets off of Crime Time. And then I just remember that one because it was just like so cringeworthy watching Shawn Michaels say, I speak jive.
All right. Z, what about yourself?
I'm going to be completely honest here. I was never really a fan of Crime Time.
Really?
It was one of those things, like I didn't like them on TV. In the video game, I'd play as them all the time, and they were always my tag team champions. I feel like they kind of tried to give them that comedy skit that they normally do with the tag team, and I just didn't feel like it worked for them. But I will say this. I listened to Busted Open this week the day after they found his body, and they did an interview with Titus, who was really close to Shad, and he was talking about how you could never be in a bad mood around him because he wouldn't let you. He was just always a very, very positive person. He never let anything get him down or anything like that. He always, he was a glass half full, not a glass half empty kind of person. So, that speaks to his character and to why everybody liked him, because he was always just a positive person in the ring and out of the ring.
All right. Nick.
I'll be honest, when Crime Time was on TV, it was a time in my life that I smoked a lot of weed. And so
do they.
So, I mean, I don't have a ton of memories about them. I do remember the money. Yeah. And, it was a funny little gimmick, from time to time. I wasn't their biggest fan either, but they were okay in the ring. But, to hear these stories about how these wrestlers are outside of the ring and the positivity that somebody like that can spread, it's just really sad. It's another one of those gone too soon things, and now God, I feel so bad for his son and his family, and it's just another testament to how bad this year sucked.
Yeah, I want to say I loved Crime Time. I thought that they were hilarious because of all of the backstage segments and everything that they were doing. I also thought that their in-ring work was really good. I thought they were a well put together tag team because you had the small high flyer guy, the agility guy in JTG. And then when Shad would come in, it was dominance. It was similar to what Enzo and Cass did currently. It's, most recently, and a lot of tag teams that really hit it off to me is because the little guy versus having the big guy as well. I think is a great dynamic in having. Can you guys mute? I keep hearing birds and cups and shit like that. Sorry. I think it's a great dynamic because it plays into a visual storytelling as well as a the normal storytelling as it goes. To have the look as well as the athletic ability, I absolutely love in tag teams. But coming down to now, hearing that his final act of anything was saving his son, that's crazy to me. As a father, it just makes me wonder, could I do that if something happened to my daughter? But man, when you get, as a parent, when you get some inkling of anything with your kid, your body changes. So, if he's making his final last stand with all of his adrenaline to save his son, man, like, there's that picture floating around that somebody made. Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear Tims. And that was Shad Gaspard. And it's crazy to me that it did go down like that. I mean, man, I could not believe that he did that in his final act. It's just awesome. It's a great thing to hear. You know what I'm saying? Next, we have a loss. This time, something that came from, unfortunately, somebody taking their own life. Hana Kimura, a Stardom wrestler, big time Stardom wrestler. She ended up taking her own life at the very, very young age of 22. Due to research, a lot of people saying, "Oh, being bullied online, cyberbullied," and I'm just like, I don't understand. I don't see any type of this cyberbullying. Well, it wasn't because she's a wrestler, and it wasn't because of what she does for her life. What actually happened is she was on a Netflix version of a show, like a reality type show, and somebody in Japan. And she was a part of the first ever women's match to happen at Wrestle Kingdom, which happened this year at Wrestle Kingdom 14 on the pre-day, before show. So she was a part of that first ever women's match. And in this reality show, somebody shrunk the gear that she wore to the Wrestle Kingdom show, and she slapped them because she got upset by it, which, I mean, history making, I get it, being that upset, especially in the moment of something like that. And because of that, a lot of people started attacking her on social media. I want to say Friday. It was like nighttime, in Japan, midday here in the States. So anyone who was following her was seeing her tweets come up. I actually saw Jordan Grace quote one of the tweets, like, "Can someone go check on her? Doesn't seem like everything's okay." And I looked at the tweet and it said "bye." All those tweets are now deleted, by the way. So she ended up taking her own life, unfortunately, because of this. And I even posted something on our social media, like, look, man, we tout ourselves as the most inappropriate pro wrestling show, but at the same time, we're not attacking people to make them feel less than, to make them feel worthless. I mean, outside of Smitty, that's just, So, Smitty, we'll start with you because obviously we give you the most shit because we love you. But that's the other thing is, this isn't malicious attack. We have fun with Smitty. Smitty knows that we all love him, that we all respect him to an extent. The whole cyberbullying and everything, Smitty, it's just, thing. Have you known of Hana Kimura before this? Because I'll be very honest, I saw that match at Wrestle Kingdom, and that's about the extent that I knew of her career until this came about.
So I've known of Hana Kimura. She was a young and up and comer in Stardom, and I just found out about the whole Terrace House thing on Netflix. Mm-hmm. But I knew of her, but didn't know too much because I do watch Stardom, and I'm a big Maya Iwatani fan. So I knew of Hana Kimura, but I didn't. Like, I wouldn't say I was a huge fan because I haven't seen too much of her.
Okay. Z, before this, have you heard of her at all?
For starters, I just want you to know I hate Smitty. As
love you too, bitch.
Yeah, I know. I've never heard of her. I mean, obviously, when I found out about her death, I went and watched a couple things she had done to get a better idea. But honestly, up until this news broke, I have never heard of her in my life. So I don't really have much else to say other than it's unfortunate that. What's that?
I was going to say, you said you went back and watched a couple of the things. Is there any highlights or anything that stood out to you from some of the stuff that you watched?
A little bit. Like she was only 22 years old. She started when she was 16, and she was obviously making her way up the ranks. And I mean, it was she had potential. I mean, you never really know how somebody's career is going to go, but she was very talented, very fluid in the ring. Didn't do any like crazy spots that come off the top of my head, but she was very fluid in the ring, and like I said, she had a lot of talent. But also, the clips I was watching were in a different language, so sometimes it doesn't translate the same. So, but I mean, like I said, she looked very talented, and it's unfortunate that that people have to attack other people online, and that I'm gonna just assume that she dealt with some kind of mental illness if this caused her to take her own life. So it's just unfortunate. She's only 22 years old. She had a whole career ahead of her, whole life ahead of her, and now she's gone. So I mean, that sucks for anybody.
Nick, I wanted to ask you about this. I understand. I'm going to assume that you don't have much insight on her, correct?
No, not at all. Just from what I heard about her the other day, it's sad, and I did. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say now. Obviously, as somebody who is grown up with, I guess what would be classified like a disability or I guess is it?
Yeah.
Is it classified as okay? So growing up, obviously, it had to be difficult. At points, I'm assuming there had to be some type of difficulties, maybe bullying or anything that you have had to deal with. Did you want to talk about your experiences with that?
Yeah, I mean, not so much as an adult, but even still as an adult, like I get, weird looks from time to time because, I've got the left side of my face is, paralyzed. I have Mobius syndrome. So, if you look at me the right way and I'm laughing and smiling, you would never even know, and it's actually progressively gotten a little worse as I've gotten older where my mouth doesn't open as much and I don't smile as big as I did when I was younger. And yeah, when I was younger, I mean, between that and my hand, I mean, I heard stuff from, believe it or not, somebody said, yeah, he's stuck it in his mom's pussy and it's so fucking toxic in there that, his hand. And, at the time, I honestly did. I laughed because I was a teenager and, I'm the type of person like, dude, that shit's funny, even though the guy meant it maliciously. And, there are people in high school, oh, you had a stroke, and because they don't fucking know and they're ignorant. But I never really let it, I always pretty much let it roll off my back. But, to hear something like this with, it just happened really quick. And like Z said, maybe there was something else going on mentally because, over just a span of 48 to 72 hours where all this happens and then she decides to take her own life over it. It's another sad story, man. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I have found out because of this, and I will totally say that this is amazing. So Lance, a lot of wrestlers obviously are tweeting out about her, it was all Shad Gaspard at one moment, and then her taking her life. And man, you saw so many people jump on her side, talking about cyberbullying over social media. Words have meaning, and words matter no matter what you want to pretend. Just because they're not affecting you doesn't mean they're not affecting somebody else differently. And Lance Storm actually put out a tweet that said, Twitter has a quality filter. People need to turn it on. I use it, and I almost never see negative, hateful stuff. I enjoy Twitter so much more since turning it on. And somebody commented on it, and I'm trying to, it's not pulling up his response that I had earlier now, of course. He had said that at one point he was thinking of quitting Twitter before finding this. And I was like, what the hell is he talking about, this quality filter? Well, if you go to, and so he didn't state it, but I'll state it to anybody who's watching, anybody who's listening. If you're on Twitter and you're kind of sick of the bullshit that's on there, you go to your settings, you go to your notification settings, and in your notification settings, it should be the first thing up there is it says quality filter to it. And what it does is it tunes out a lot of things. There's also the advanced filters that are followed under it, to where you can mute notifications from people you don't follow, people who don't follow you, people with a new account, people who have a default profile photo, people who haven't confirmed their email, and people who haven't confirmed their phone number. So there's a lot of those trolls that do come out and create a brand new Twitter account just to run at you. Some people, some celebrities and things like that. And you can turn on those filters. So if you're not a person who's confirmed your email, you don't have a new phone number, you don't, default profile photo, all of a sudden you're not getting those notifications. You're not seeing those things pop up on your timeline. So you can kind of stay away from the supremely negative people on Twitter. And I highly suggest, if you're one of these people that are feeling like a little overwhelmed or just kind of sick of seeing some of the fucking drab, dumb things that happen on Twitter. Because let's be honest, there are times when you're on Twitter, as much as I love Twitter, there are times you're on it, you're like, shut the fuck up. This will help you filter out all of that stuff and hopefully give you a much better experience in your social media. I mean, hell, man, even on Facebook, I unfollowed everyone at one point just to break the algorithm from Facebook. And then I went back and I refollowed. I think I'm following about 30, 35 people. I have a lot of friends on there, but there's like 35 of them motherfuckers that I see. Sorry, suckers, if you're paying attention to this and you're not one. Just because it broke the algorithm for Facebook, dude. I could scroll on Facebook now. I get to a bottom. There is a bottom of my Facebook. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm done. I can get off Facebook now. Because that's also the thing. It's addictive to see all this stuff. It just kind of knocks it out of the park for me, man. So I suggest everyone doing that, unfollowing everything except our page, and then go back and refollow what you want. And like I said, it also breaks Facebook's algorithm. Them stupid ads that you see, I don't see as many of them ads. I still see people hearing from us, so I can't wait to get all the ads from this one. Let's move on from absolute sadness. We're going to take a break. We'll get into the dark side of the ring, Owen Hart, in the latter half of this show. Let's talk AEW's Double or Nothing on a incredibly long pay-per-view. Damn near WrestleMania-esque, if I'm being very honest. It started at 7:30 with the buy-in, and it went all the way until about 11:50 p.m. at night. So you got about 5 hours and 15 minutes of a pay-per-view, 4 hours and 45 minutes if you want to talk just from the jump at 8 o'clock when the actual pay-per-view started. Still a long time, especially when you're coming off of Money in the Bank pay-per-view that was less than a Monday Night Raw. Couple things right off the bat in the buy-in. The Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent, defeated Private Party to become the #1 contender for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. Dark Order are still the #1 contenders. They have not fallen out of that, but we needed a new #1 contender because due to the COVID-19 restrictions, Dark Order aren't allowed to travel from Canada to be a part of what they have going on in AEW. Up next started the incredibly weird order of matches in AEW's Double or Nothing. It was so strange to see it play out like this. The casino ladder match would have been being built for such a long time. Kicked it off. And Darby Allin, Colt Cabana, Orange Cassidy, Joey Janela replaced Rey Fenix due to an injury. As we were talking about making our predictions on Thursday, he wasn't able to attend. Scorpio Sky, Kip Sabian, Frankie Kazarian, and Luchasaurus all started off this match, and then the mystery opponent showed up. It was not MJF, as Z and I thought. It was the machine, the effing machine, Brian Cage, as you have heard on our intro. And he won the casino ladder match for a future AEW World Championship. He got the chip, and they didn't treat it like the WWE's Money in the Bank at all. As a matter of fact, they've already announced that at Fyter Fest is when he's getting his title shot against Jon Moxley. So Fyter Fest is the next AEW pay-per-view, and it's Jon Moxley versus Brian Cage for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. The next match was MJF versus Jungle Boy. MJF went over in what all of us are pretty much considering most likely the match of the night as far as pure technical wrestling is concerned. Then following that was the finals for the tournament for the inaugural AEW TNT Championship, which was a gorgeous belt. Cody defeated Lance Archer after 3 crossroads, 2 of which were in a row at the end of it, taking Lance Archer down. Next match was Chris Statlander having to take on Penelope Ford because Britt Baker was injured, as we were talking about in our prediction show as well. She had torn something. They said that she'll be on AEW this Wednesday to discuss it further. So Penelope Ford stepped in to take on Chris Statlander. Chris Statlander got the win in the singles match. Up next, Shawn Spears versus Dustin Rhodes. Dustin Rhodes came out of nowhere, kind of, to defeat Shawn Spears. Up next was the no DQ, no countout match for the AEW Women's World Championship. Hikaru Shida got a much-deserved win and is the brand new AEW Women's World Champion after defeating Nyla Rose in that amazing match. Let's be very honest. Probably the best women's match that AEW has had. Definitely the best showing by Nyla Rose for sure. Next was a singles match, a normal singles match, a regular, every rule matters singles match for the AEW World Championship. Jon Moxley defeated Brody Lee. They have it on Wikipedia by technical submission. Excalibur said it was referee stoppage. It was a weird ending. We'll get into that. And then finally was the Stadium Stampede match where Matt Hardy and the elite of Adam Page-ish, Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson defeated the inner circle of Chris Jericho, Jake Hagar, Sammy Guevara, Santana, and Ortiz. We'll kick it off. Z, I want to start with you. Give me your highlight of this pay-per-view, just the highlight, your number one highlight of it. Talk a little bit about it, and obviously we'll get into more details of this in a little bit.
My number one highlight from this pay-per-view as a whole would be the MJF Jungle Boy match. It seemed like the only match on the card, and in fact, I think it might have been the only match on the card that was a professional wrestling match from start to finish. There was no. I mean, they did a lot of stuff outside of the ring, but nothing that would push possible DQ in other wrestling promotions. They told a story. And what's more impressive was you got a 22-year-old kid and a 24-year-old kid that has 9 years of wrestling experience between them. Like what? And then you go back and watch the match, and you're like, wow, like that's incredible. They're only going to get better. But the one spot of that match that sounds out is the reverse hurricanrana onto the ring apron. And the way MJF just kind of like stood up, he even did the Ric Flair flop at one point into a pin. Like it was just a very, very well put together match. And I don't know if they rehearsed it or did it in the ring, but they both did a phenomenal job, and they both have big futures wherever their career may take them.
Yeah, Nick, give me one highlight for you. Again, doesn't have to be number one. Could might even be something different from Z's, or it could be the same and you have a different take on it.
Well, I was gonna, use Z's, but just to put, to spin off into something else because that was a great fucking match. I did enjoy the Nyla Rose and Cheetah match. I mean, the vignette that they ran before where Cheetah was talking about how she had beaten Awesome Kong before, and she's had a really good build coming into the match, and it wasn't where like Nyla Rose dominated the majority of the match. It was, where my neighbor decides that they're going to cut the fucking grass every time that I do this. But so that match, was one of my favorites of the night, aside from the MJF and Jungle Boy match, because it was nonstop. It never got boring. But I do hope you talk about some lows because there was something in that match that really kind of upset my stomach. So.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into lows. Smitty, give me a high review for this pay-per-view.
I really enjoyed the Stadium Stampede match as well. It was pretty. It reminded me a lot of Final Deletion to a certain degree, and also another reason, is I have a very casual fan who watches along with me when I watch these pay-per-views, and she wasn't big on a couple of guys until she's seeing Stadium Stampede. Like, she wasn't really big on the Matt Hardy character. So Stadium Stampede kind of brought her around to the whole Matt Hardy gimmick. And to Pride and Powerful, she wasn't really a big fan of those guys. So watching, part of my reason I enjoyed it because I got somebody who's more of a casual fan to really enjoy certain characters and certain aspects of things.
Awesome.
And also, just really entertainment.
You guys talked about specific matches and as your highs. My high was actually a moment in a match. To start off the pay-per-view, obviously, was the Casino Ladder match. Orange Cassidy entering this match, I thought was, again, I think I'm as big of a mark for Orange Cassidy as I was for The Rock when I first started watching The Rock. It's just funny to me. Him coming out, the first thing he does is walk up to the announcers going, how do I win this match again? Excalibur going, Tony Khan has discussed this with you about 200 times on what you're supposed to do. Cassidy finally gets to the ring and he just reaches. Like, obviously, it's going to need a ladder. He reaches. He's like, damn it. He pulls a ladder over. He stands on a ladder while it's folded on its side on the mat, and he still can't reach because it's only like another 3-4 inches for him. He tries to lift the ladder up, but he doesn't open it, so it just falls, and he's like, I'm so confused. What the hell is going on? Colt Cabana coming out, and then ended up throwing him outside of the ring. I just love, and then again, Orange Cassidy, his first attempt at climbing the ring, he wasn't even climbing the fucking ring. He was on Brian Cage's back, who was climbing the fucking ladder, and he was like, oh, I can touch it now. It was great. It's definitely that point that I think that wrestling can perfectly have the entertainment factor and the work factor. Because if you saw the match between him and Phoenix on AEW Dynamite Wednesday before, that was a spectacular high-flying match with a lot of great moves, a lot of great counters, and a lot of fluid acts. So it's not like he's just this funny gimmick. He can work as well, which I'll be very honest, Rock had the original 5 moves of Doom. Orange Cassidy is at least working really well on top of keeping this comedy gimmick that is going over. So to me, that was a highlight for me, is just watching how well that comedy gimmick still worked in a 9-person elimination ladder match. A 9-person ladder match. Because you would think that at points it's going to get kind of hokey. And sure, the little light kicks with the fans in the audience going, oh, all that stuff. It has its moments, and I don't think they're overdoing it with Orange Cassidy, which in any organization that you see on a regular basis, this could be overdone easily, and I don't feel like they're killing it too much. We're going to go in reverse order, so we'll start with Smitty. Smitty, give me one of your lows for AEW's Double or Nothing, and talk until I come back because I need something else to drink.
Well, the low was more so of a technicality. It was one of my lows was the Penelope Ford Chris Statlander match, but that's I know it's not their fault. It was a last minute change, and with the Britt Baker injury, and so with Britt getting hurt, and I had some really nice expectations from that match because it was one of the matches I was looking forward to because Britt was getting a pretty good push, and her Britt going down at this point was just kind of just a bad stroke of luck for this pay-per-view in general and what they were doing for her. So that was kind of just a low. I feel like it was just kind of pushed together last minute.
I'll talk on that a little bit. Yeah, because I agree. I think that match, the match originally, Britt Baker versus Chris Statlander, it was a match that is set up to be probably one of the better women's matches that we were going to have in AEW because of how well those two work as professional workers. So I agree. I thought that Penelope Ford stepping in, and it's not a knock on Penelope Ford. She might be an amazing wrestler, and sure, it could have been we're just getting this thrown together the day before. But man, that match, from what we were expecting with Britt Baker in it to what we got with Penelope Ford, was definitely a drop.
A little let down.
Yeah, I agree. I'll agree with you. I'm not arguing that at all. Nick, you said you really wanted to get into a low. Tell me, how are you feeling, sir? And what are you feeling about?
Well, okay, so it wasn't necessarily anything to do with the finish of a match or the match as a whole, but there were 2 points in the Nyla Rose and Hikaru Shida match where I just got to say, I don't know who was in the production booth and decided to get these camera angles. But
I know exactly what you're talking about.
There was two instances, one where Nyla was climbing the top rope and her fucking whole asshole was just out there, and it was like they were up inside her. And then the finish of the match, yeah, dude, and the finish of the match where Shida pinned her, the whole 3 count was from the angle of Nyla Rose's taint. And it just, maybe, I don't know. This is where I would throw in the views and opinions expressed here are, but it's just, dude, I don't need to see that shit. Maybe it's because she's a he-she. It probably is. But for fuck's sake, man, I did not want to have to see that twice.
Camera work throughout the whole show kind of got shoddy.
Quick question. Well, we can determine whether or not it's because she's a he-she right now. If you saw Nia Jax's tape, would you be just as appalled?
Probably not. Probably not.
Okay, there it is.
Wow, that is not. I'm gonna go on record and say I thought I knew what you were talking about. That was not what I thought you were going to talk about. Because there was a moment when they were on the outside of the ring where like something happened between them, and it shot to a camera angle that was on the complete other side of the ring, the opposite side of where they were on. And because this was happening on the floor, you didn't see anyone. There was no one. All you saw was the empty ring and the fake crowd behind them. I was like, what kind of fucking camera angle is that? But I mean, all right.
Camera angle was kind of shaky throughout the whole show.
Oh yeah, it was horrible. Whoever was the director was sucked. Z.
Are we on me now? All right, my low of the show is Sean fucking Spears, Ty Dillinger 0.5, not even 2.0. Not even 2.0, because he left one company. He better have got a bigger paycheck because he left one company to do the same thing at another company. And not only that, but he lost the first ever bra and panties match in fucking AEW history. Like, what the fuck was that? Jesus fucking Christ. Not only did you have him losing, I mean, he did get some offense in the match, but it was not 50-50. It was like 70-30 with Dustin just whooping his ass all over the fucking ring. Then you strip him down to his fucking boxers. He's got Tully Blanchard on his fucking pecker. So now, not only are you getting your ass kicked, but now you're a joke. So you're literally the exact same fucking thing. You were in the company, you left because you wanted to come to this company for a better opportunity. The only difference is you're still an idiot. You're still a fucking jobber. You're just on TV a little bit more. That's it. Fuck him. Fuck that.
I can't
this
say
is bullshit.
I can't say he's a jobber. He, it has listed him as 4-1 for 2020, won 5 out of his last 6 matches before, losing Dustin Rhodes. So I can't say he's a jobber, but I can say that I agree with you on the fact that it does seem like they dropped him down to a level. We bitched about Mike Kanellis on WWE, the way that Maria was making him look and sound during that little 24/7 thing. And then especially with the whole pregnancy. It kind of dropped your standing and opinion of the person. And I can't argue with it, especially with the boxer thing. It's like
right?
You come out of – I get there's a certain level of humor and some of these heels, you're going to bring down a little bit of a peg. But getting stripped down is fine, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like,
what would have been better? What would have been better in my mind, just sorry to cut you off, but had the boxers been like all of Tully Blanchard's face, like the ones you can buy
instead
online,
of just right on the dick?
Yes.
That's exactly what I was about to
To me, that would have been more humorous. This to me was like bad humor as opposed to what could have been good humor.
Right. Obviously it was. It's just someone took an iron-on and put it on a pair of boxers. And to do it right there. And you're right. And that's what I was going to say. If he would have been stripped down and it would have been like the liner around like the waistband, if it would have been Tully's face around the waistband, or like you said, an all over type print, a myriad of faces everywhere. So it wasn't just like it was on his dick. I agree. I thought that the specific spot brought him down pretty low, and that should not have been done, especially to a talent as good as Shawn Spears is. Continues. You're about to say something.
This was also one of those instances, though, where if you're going to have a squash match maybe not a squash match, if you're going to have a quick match in general, they should have had him lose earlier. Like when Dustin caught him by surprise and like had his shirt over his head or something, he should have pinned him then and won the match, and then continued to beat the shit out of him. And then it would have made the win. But the fact that they actually kind of had a match to where Spears could actually rebound and get some offense in made the whole thing really dumb that it ended the way it did. Like, they say he's 4-1, but I really don't every big match he's had, he's lost. It's like he beats a bunch of people that don't really matter, you know what I mean? But then he gets like against Cody or, a big name opponent, and he like shits the bed. So I don't know. It stays dumb to me because I'm a huge fan, and he doesn't really ever seem to get out of his like mid card slot. He's like Zack Ryder. Him and Zack Ryder should form a tag team and be like him for hockey. Maybe the 3 of them can make it through. Job Squad 4.0.
Speardona.
I like that.
Smitty, you about to say something?
Well, he is. I lost train of thought when he said the tag team. Like Shawn Spears is still looking for a tag team partner in kayfabe. Tell him and tell her looking for him a tag team partner.
Oh no, it should be Zack Ryder, and the team name should be like "Our wives are more over than we are" or some shit like
that. The husbands.
Good one. Perfect. Sell it. Put it on a t-shirt.
My low for this pay-per-view is a match, and it's Cody versus Lance Archer. I thought
knew you were on that live tweet.
That match sucked. That match was long. That match was boring. That match had spots that when edited together at 11 p.m. when they were showing it, I was like, man, if that would have been the match we saw, that would have been a great match. Unfortunately, the way these guys were moving, I understand the selling of the big man, the monster, so on and so forth. I get that. You want to make somebody look strong. But Cody was just getting beaten down, and then Lance Archer would stop and just walk away for 20 seconds, and it would take away completely the validity of how hard he was beating, because it became boring. It's, I'm gonna beat you up and I'm gonna walk away, and I'm gonna beat you up and I'm gonna walk away, and I'm gonna talk shit to Big Swole, and I'm gonna beat you up and I'm gonna walk away, and then we got to slow this down because the old guys have to get involved and we have to hit their signature moves while looking at them. And again, I'm fine with even the spots of the old guys, but this match went 22 minutes. 22 minutes Archer and Cody went. I don't understand why it went more than 12. I think this match definitely went 10 minutes too long, and it took me out of the pay-per-view. I'll be very honest. And especially it followed MJF and Jungle Boy. And we watched MJF and Jungle Boy, and we're looking at this going, wow, what an amazing, well put together match. And maybe it's because Cody is known for being a part of amazing, well put together matches, that when you saw him in this, it was a letdown. Like, this was, obviously, to me, it's Cody's worst performance in the AEW ring. Plus the finish, we were talking about it, on the prediction show. Lance Archer went 5-0. That was a clean, I guess not technically a clean win, because he got caught, looking off guard when he was looking at Tyson.
That was a clean win.
It was a clean win.
No, technically it's not. But it's not like somebody hit him or to make it look like he was staggered. The entire match, anything Cody did to this guy, he made it, it was easy, blah, 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 get out of this. And then for the ending, even if it was a rolling crossroads, 2 in a row, it wasn't as bad as the Moxley Brody Lee ending, but it was something to where, after the match that you got of how boring and drawn out it was, that you were like, I'm glad this is over, but that was stupid. Like, it did not, there was no pop in this match for me.
It wasn't totally stupid. I mean, Cody won his 7th tag team title and his first ever Raw tag team championship.
That belt is hideous.
It's a prototype.
No, it's not a prototype. That is the belt, and the only thing that it's missing is some of the gold stuff that's supposed to be on.
Yeah,
that is the belt.
Gold and nickel plating is what it's missing. But
That's
it also says, and no, hold on. They actually did a decent PR move here. They blamed COVID for it not being done, which is probably true. But they're like, oh, people hate this logo. So, by the way, that's not the real logo either. Like, the logo's going to change too. So that's just like the mock-up TNT logo. So that's not, the logo of the belt is actually going to change as well. From what I read from the manufacturer.
So the logo is going to be, so they're just basically changing the whole fucking belt.
Yeah, essentially, it's gonna have nickel. Okay, so your side straps are gonna be the same. Your like side plates that it has on it now, only you're gonna have nickel and gold plated. Then the actual belt shape is also gonna be gold and nickel plated, but the TNT part of it isn't just. I don't know if it's gonna be a different font. I don't know if it's gonna be slanted. You know what I mean? They're gonna adjust the TNT part of it.
Currently, that is the actual TNT logo that they just slapped on there, just
right
engraved. So I don't know, man. That fucking belt is hideous. Like, some people are saying the 24/7 title looks better than it. I don't believe that. But it's
on par. They're like,
it's low.
It's like Christmas, red and green.
I might be putting it more. I might be putting it more with the whole original tag team copper plate belts. I thought those were hideous. Like, Grant, I think the 24/7 title is worse than those. But yeah, I think it's probably with the copper plated tag team belts more than the 24/7 title. Now, granted, again, they could jump all over this, and I when looking at that title, it definitely just looks like it's the metal engraved and they finished some of the painting on it, right? They got black, they got red, and that's it. So I agree that the belt looks completely unfinished, while the 24/7 title looks finished. Like, hey, this is what we're giving you. So I'll give them that.
Oh, sorry.
But no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just find it funny that, like Sean Spears, Cody left a certain company because he didn't want to be the top guy in the mid card. He wanted to be the top guy overall, and here we are, 3 years removed, and he's the top guy at the mid card.
Took himself out of the top guy for the whole company.
No, although, I get it.
I will say he's still the top guy of the whole company. I mean, it's still Cody fucking Rhodes for AEW.
I mean, okay, so the one thing they always said his dad did wrong was his dad always booked himself in the main event picture. And it seems like Cody's learned from that, like not to overdo it. So
Dad is Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah. Jeff Jarrett for sure was a problem in TNA. So Nick, I'll start off with you. Give me your whole rundown of this pay-per-view, how it was for you to watch from top to bottom. Obviously, we got your high, we got your lows, maybe some little things that we haven't talked about that you feel need to be mentioned.
It was a bit of a roller coaster. Like you had said earlier, it was weird that they started off the whole pay-per-view with the casino ladder match. I did not expect that. And a lot of times when they start pay-per-views off with a big match like that, I don't necessarily hate it. But I just think in this instance, that's something that they should have saved for later. I was not a big fan of the Chris Statlander match with Penelope Ford. You know, the finish to Brody Lee and John Moxley had me rewinding it a couple times just to make sure that I could make some sense of how it ended. And definitely the highlight of the night was the MJF Jungle Boy match. The Stampede match was fine. You know, I think it might have went a little long, but I was entertained by it. So all in all, it was okay. I don't know if it was worth the money I spent for it, but.
So let me ask you this, Nick, and I fully agree that this was a really weirdly put together card, top to bottom. Hindsight being 2020, obviously, it's going to be involved in this because we're going to talk. You know, we know how these matches turned out, how they felt. How would you have booked this match? Because as this card, as it stands, it became the Casino Ladder match was first, then MJF Jungle Boy, then Cody and Archer, then Statlander and Ford, Dustin and Sean Spears, the AEW Women's title match, the AEW title match, and then the Stadium Stampede match. So those 8 matches. What would you have preferred to kick off the show? If not the casino, or is the Casino Ladder what you would have done, and then you would have done some things differently in between?
I probably would have put the casino battle royal or ladder match somewhere in the middle. But it's hard to say because if you would have told me that Sean Spears and Dustin would have had a shitty match like that, then I would have. You can throw that match anywhere for all I care. But if it would have been a normal, good match like it should have been, and they stopped fucking burying Sean Spears, I would have probably put that match to open the card. I still think I like the Stampede match to close it out. I think the Moxley match being just ahead of that was fine. I probably would have put the TNT Championship match before the Moxley match. Those are the only changes, and maybe Jungle Boy and MJF somewhere in between. Or, you know, since Sean Spears and Dustin had that match, you could have put MJF and Jungle Boy as the opening bout because it was such a technically sound, very good match, and that would have set the bar high for the night.
That's actually what I was thinking. I think Dustin and Sean Spears is perfectly placed because of what it was. I don't think anything was good about that. That's right before the AEW Women's title match. I agree with you. I would have started MJF and Jungle Boy. Plus, then if that match goes like that, you then leave the opening of a possibility that it's going to be MJF into the casino battle, into the casino ladder match. Man, we always say casino battle royal. But I agree. It leaves that opening. You're like, all right, he's already had this match. A couple matches have happened since. So I would have gone MJF and Jungle Boy. Then I would have gone with the women's match. Honestly, I would have. I know it's the second match, and it didn't properly deliver. But if I was thinking of the way I put this, MJF and Jungle Boy, Chris Statlander and Penelope Ford, then I would have put Cody and Lance Archer for the TNT. Then after that, I would have done the ladder match. Then the Dustin Spears just right where it was, and then title match, Stadium Stampede. It just, the beginning half of this card just seemed in an order to where it threw you off. So why would you be doing this right now? Why would you be doing that right now? Z, give me your overall of AEW double. Oh, I'm sorry, Nick. And what would you rate Double or Nothing out of 10?
6.
Okay. Z, give me your overall thoughts on Double or Nothing. Give me a final rating on it and everything as well.
All right, so you're just talking about match, what we would rearrange.
No, just overall your overall take on.
No, but I'm saying that's what we were just discussing. So I wouldn't change the match card at all if I had a crowd, because then you have like the perfect up down kind of roller coaster wave building back up to the Stampede match. But I don't have a crowd right now. It's COVID. So I would have rearranged everything to the point where I would have started off like a slow build and had the best match of the night at the very end instead of, it would have been I would have done the ladder match, then the championship match, then the Stampede match, and had everything else just kind of sprinkled around in the mid card.
Okay.
As far as my rating for the show, I'd give it a 6, but it gets an extra COVID point, so I'll give it a 7. And yeah, that's about it.
No, go ahead. Sorry, but I'm also. Is there like other things that you think should be talked about that we haven't really touched on much yet?
Well, I like the fact that Brian Cage is now in AEW, which means everybody on our sound bites, except for Ryan from Pro Wrestling Scorecard, is in a major wrestling right now.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I went and got all the guys that were future people.
Yes, you did. You're a great talent scout. We appreciate that.
And that wasn't that all out from last year?
The women's title belt in AEW bothers me because it looks like Wayne Selinsky shrunk it down from like the actual title. But here's it literally looks like a 1980s toy foam belt from WWF. That's what it.
I agree. I think AEW started off really high with the AEW World Championship, and each belt they've debuted since has got progressively worse.
And and it's like they almost agree with me that women are inferior, so they make the belt much smaller.
I think the AEW tag titles were pretty sweet still.
The championship match was a former WWE guy facing another former WWE guy, announced by a former WWE announcer.
Well,
and the dumbest finish of the night was Brody and Mox because that was so dumb. Such a dumb end to such a good match.
God, what?
I thought the match was
a good match.
I liked it,
man.
I liked it a lot. I mean, I don't like it the same way I liked MJF and Jungle Boy, but it's also two different styles of wrestling here, and I liked what they did up until I would have done more with that finish. I wouldn't have just made it like so quickly, like. And when did we get rid of this? Like the arms got to drop 3 times. When did we get rid of that?
Like we got rid of that a long time ago, but everyone.
Well, they need to bring it back.
Well, at least in like other wrestling promotions, they lift the arm at least once, and if it falls, then it's done. They didn't. It's like he was like, oh, and then his arm went down, and the ref was like, oh, it's done. It's fucking done.
All his arm did was this. Like all it did was like fall in his body. Like yeah, exactly.
Right.
They kind of do the same thing with Pac's brutalizer though. They don't usually wait for the whole arm to drop. The referee will stop most matches when Pac blocks in that brutalizer.
But again, then that's a referee stoppage, and the person who lost the match didn't lose the match. They didn't tap. They didn't pass out. It's a referee stopped it. If you're not doing any type sort of,
But it's still counted as submission.
But again, it's not a submission because you're not even giving the person who loses the match a chance to go, oh shit, wait, no, I have to, like, lifting their arm one time. I totally okay. It's a submission because then you lifted the arm and it fell. That person's not responding. We're out of it. Sure, back in the 80s, early 90s and stuff, you could do the 1, 2, 3. But now with everyone talking about, injury stuff and concussion protocol, so on and so forth, I get the one arm thing. If that person goes limp in the middle of a submission, it doesn't mean that they're out. It totally could mean they're thinking of a way to counter. If you don't lift that arm and show that the person is actually passed out, then it's the referee's decision that that match stops, not the person who is in the submission hold. It's stupid.
But it makes matters even worse. And it, like, more so to your point, he just took a paradigm shift and kicked out at 1. So to say he's now passed out because he just locked in a rear naked chokehold is stupid. You got to give it some, like, let it sink in, let it marinate a little bit, and that's what you get with the arm raise. But I don't know. Whatever. But yeah,
I agree. That paradigm shift is the most undersold paradigm shift since Dean Ambrose was doing the double arm DDT. That was the most protected finish in all of wrestling for the longest time. And then someone kicked out of it at 1. As a matter of fact, all finishers were kind of made to go away in this Double or Nothing pay-per-view, which happens. I'm not saying that you have to protect every finisher at all times, but some things you want to still make look strong. I will say this. I fucking hated that match. I didn't hate it. Cody Archer hated it. But again, it was a singles match. There were no now I had to look it up, and I even asked Daniel because we were watching this together from Pro Wrestling Scorecards. I had to ask him. I was like, "Hey, is this a no DQ match, or are AEW championship matches automatically no disqualification, similar to how they are in NXT? Because NXT made that announcement that any title match in NXT is automatically no disqualification. And
so there must be a winner.
Nope, this is a regular singles match. Yeah. He's like, nope, this is a regular singles match that could end in a disqualification or a count out or any of those things. And and he goes, this is up to ref's discretion. And again, we have this problem on AEW where I'm taken out of this. Was I enjoying it? Sure. But I would have enjoyed it if they said it was a no DQ match. Otherwise, I'm looking at it going, why isn't that a DQ? Why are they still out on the outside of the ring? Where does this matter? And look, I am not shitting on just AEW because I had this problem with the first Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega match in New Japan that everyone talks so highly about and got 8 million fucking stars and first broke the scale. They were on the outside way too fucking long in that match. It didn't make any sense that that Red Shoes was letting them go that long. Same with this. Same with a lot of matches. If there's no standard thing to abide by, what's the fucking point of making it a standard match? It'd be like Orton and Edge going on at fucking Backlash and then being on the outside of the ring for 2 minutes. And you're like, wait, this is supposed to be the greatest wrestling match normal. I don't get it. There needs to be a rules set and standard. Referee discretion is way too stupid, especially for a title match. Z, you're about to say something.
Yeah, all I was going to say is, like, I'm totally on board with what you're saying because, especially for the psychology standpoint of the business, like, you need a set rules and standards so that way you can you have a direction to go. If you're going every direction, it doesn't make sense to most people. You're never going to grab a casual fan. But like someone like you're a stickler for, like, okay, what can you do? What can't you do in this match? Now me, I've gotten to the point where that's just the way AEW is. So now I don't look at it as rules and standards. I look at it as a style of wrestling. This is the way they do it. This is their style. Like it's up to the ref. That's fine. So now I've just got to, okay, fuck the rules. Like, throw the rules out the window when you watch the match. And the match is actually really good. But like you said, if it was a no DQ match. But this is the product. This is the product they're selling us, and I've just learned to enjoy it. So I personally think it was a great match. No, not great.
Normally,
AEW
I would
was a
agree
good
with,
match.
I would normally agree with that, but the problem with this is AEW has set into place that wins and losses matter. Now, granted, we don't know why they matter, but if you're constantly saying this, if you're constantly telling the fans that wins and losses matter, this is the way this match should go, this is the way this match should be portrayed, and then you're not following it, then it's casual fan or not. I am a wrestling fan. I will watch anything and everything, and I fell in love with New Japan watching it. You know what I'm saying? Without knowing who these people were. I didn't know who the fuck Tanahashi was. I didn't know who fuck Kota Ibushi was until he showed up in the Cruiserweight title. You know, I didn't know who a lot of those guys were. Just starting watching it because I heard of things that in this. You know, I fell with love because I was able to follow it, and then you were able to follow these characters. If you're giving me matches like this and there's a thing to follow with it, I'm good. I don't care. I'm not forcing you to have this. I'm not forcing you to have no DQ matches. I'm not forcing you to have pure wrestling matches. I'm not saying I love the death matches more. You need to give me more death matches. I'm saying stick to what you're telling me. That's it. Because if what you're telling me on the outset, everything follows that, I don't care. You know, as long as you're sticking to your own shit. If AEW never said wins and losses matter, if AEW never said we're going to do a 20 count for the ref, if AEW never said there's countouts and every, you know, blah, 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 DQs and stuff, if they would have said, look, we're just going to let matches go, then you know what? I'd have been like, fuck yeah, Moxley and Brody Lee was a really good fucking match. But when I'm taken out of it because you're telling me it's not supposed to follow these things that it's doing, I'm like, huh?
I'm with you on the whole 20 count thing too, because in all reality, you could make a 20 count in wrestling last 2 minutes, as far as like ref interaction and shit like that. So you could do a lot outside of the ring, but these motherfuckers don't even count. They don't even act like they're counting to 20.
Right.
Like,
and that's what it is.
They just follow the ECW. They just follow the action around like it's a Falls Count Anywhere match. Every single match.
Did you just say they're a lot like ECW?
Like I say, the whole the referee discretion thing reminds me a lot of old school ECW, where they will just let things fly and just let the match keep going.
It's not, because old school ECW, every match was an ODQ match.
Yeah,
every match in ECW had the stipulation where there was no disqualification.
Oh no, because I can tell you, I can tell you right now that's false. Because I watch a lot of ECW. Like, one of the reasons I got redid my network is so I can watch a lot of ECW hardcore TV. Not all matches were only pretty much like big feud matches. Like, you also had matches like when we had Dean Malenko were technical matches, which they were coming out ended in DQs. There were disqualification finishes. There were count out finishes in ECW.
The original
just kind of depended on the severity of the matches.
The original concept was they were all DQ matches. I mean, obviously, when they went to TV, they had changed some shit up. But the original niche of ECW was that they were extreme, so they got rid of DQs.
I was watching for 96. I'm in 96 right now for ECW.
Congrats.
So like my whole point for that was like this. At that point, when I said like it's a lot like the ECW, like the way they carry the matches a lot like ECW style. How ECW security style and they're pretty much in their prime, like where the referee's discretion. The referees really shouldn't matter as much in a wrestling match, in my mind, anyway. But that's a different opinion.
It's a situation where if it's difficult to follow, you're not going to have people enjoying it. And I'll be very honest, I enjoyed a lot of that pay-per-view. I'm not trying to say that pay-per-view sucked in any way, shape, or form. If I'm giving it a rating, I'm going to be up there with a 6 as well. You know, I think that this and if we're doing the COVID point, it gets an extra 0.5. That means it's a 6.5. You know, definitely better than Money in the Bank. I think MJF and Jungle Boy right now is just a standout great match. I thought the ladder match, while we were all talking shit about it, you know, giving it like, oh, it's the Money in the Bank match, just, you know, competitors coming in at a different time. It wasn't, and it was their own spin on it, and it was a good ladder match to watch. I thought it was really fucking good.
That giant poker chip spot was good too.
Yeah.
Oh, damn, how they kill Cage.
Oh, yeah. And then again, they gave us one of the best women's matches, if not the best women's match that AEW has ever given us, with Shida taking that title off of Rose in the no DQ, no count out match. But again, Nyla Rose also gave me what I feel is her best performance in AEW since watching it. I thought she was great. And again, I'm not saying I agree that the Brody Lee Moxley match was a good match. Had it been a no DQ match, I would not have taken me out of it. I thought the fucking Stadium Stampede match was fun. The whole Matt Hardy getting dumped into the pool of reincarnation was spectacular, right? Especially when he the first coming out
Santana
with the first version of Matt Hardy, because you can't call it Matt Hardy V1 because that is a WWE copyright. But the first version of Matt Hardy is what they called it. I love that, especially with the Matt Bat. A Matt can hold his breath for 346 seconds. Them coming up and then Santana Ortiz reading the fucking thing as it was going, I thought was wonderful. The way they did that match, I thought was the chair of wheels, the ice bin. This will help with the inflammation. Yeah, the fucking ref calling the penalty because of the celebration. The 100-yard Northern Light suplex.
Chris Jericho throwing a challenge flag to Aubrey.
Then going in the replay booth
and then he tells her on TV, "You're a shitty ref."
Again, it was great. It was a really well put together match.
Now,
the smaller things that I'm upset about, I'm not too upset. As a matter of fact, if now that I'm even talking more about it, I'm probably giving this a 7.5 because I thought it was good. I thought it was better than decent. I think it was good. Z, I didn't even get your rating.
You did.
I gave it a 7. With the COVID bump up, I gave it a 7.
All right, Smitty.
But what I was gonna say is Nick. Oh
no, go ahead, Z.
I was gonna say Nick said something earlier about the Stampede match maybe being too long. But we shit all over Money in the Bank for being 27 minutes and calling it too short. And the Stampede match was only like 42 minutes. So
34.
I mean, like, what is your magic number here?
You know what? If I think about it, I think it was too long for me. Only not because of the match. So I'm going to retract my statement. But it's because I was watching it this morning, laying in my bed in an awkward position with my daughter next to me, asking me, "Why are they doing that? Where did that come from?" He shouldn't have hit him with that. So I was like waiting for it.
So another thing your child has ruined for you. Got it.
I definitely thought the pay-per-view was too long. Fucking all that fucking time. Over 4 hours. I thought was
dude.
Stupid.
So I texted you last night and I was like, "Oh, what platform is it on?" Because I thought I was going to start at the beginning of the pay-per-view, and I started in the middle of the Stampede match because it was still live.
Nice, Smitty. Your overall for the AEW pay-per-view and your rating.
See, I really enjoyed it. One thing that AEW's done a really great job for is making every match feel different. Every match in that card felt different. Nothing actually felt the same going from match to match. I'm a huge Brian Cage fan, so I did kind of mark out when Brian Cage came out for the Casino ladder match. Like the way he pretty much killed fucking Darby Allin with that F5 was pretty cool.
F5000.
Yeah, but so that was pretty cool. Like the shit, like we've pretty much can all agree that the women's division in AEW, it started off pretty lackluster, but over the last couple months, it's been getting better and better and better. And the women's title match pretty much showed that. Like I said, one of my biggest down things is more so it became a down because of just. It was just
today, Junior.
Say the women's match, the Statlander Penelope Ford match, taken for what it was there, but it still was different. The Moxley Lee match, I didn't think it was as bad as you guys think it was, but
no one said it was bad. I just said it didn't follow anything, so I couldn't follow. It didn't follow a specific set, what it was set out at the beginning to be. So therefore, to me, it was stupid. it was still, if it was a no DQ match, I would have thought that match was amazing.
Like every finish kind of felt every finish felt different. Nothing really felt too screwy outside of that kind of the Moxley Lee finish. But like, I thoroughly enjoyed the entire pay-per-view. And
what do you give it out of 10?
I'm giving it an 8.
Let's move it on. 8? Highest
Yeah.
fucking rating. Wow. All right. 6 from Nick, 7 from Z, 7.5 from me, 8 from Smitty. Overall, good production by AEW. Thank you so much for that pay-per-view. Obviously, we appreciate all of the wrestling going on right now. Next, and finally, the last thing that we're going to talk about, Dark Side of the Ring. Season 2 finale, the final days of Owen Hart. One of those, what are the things that in wrestling, you hear about, you see talk about and everything. I can honestly say there were a lot of things in this episode that came to light that changed, one, how I felt about this situation, and two, changed my perception of the situation. I'll say it changed my perception of the situation, and then we'll go into how you guys felt and stuff. I had never seen any of the police photos of this. I always knew that when Owen Hart came down as the Blue Blazer, it was him, coming, down straight from over the ring to there. For some reason, I had it in my head that he kind of that he was supposed to do a Shawn Michaels type of entrance, not as long as they did it for WrestleMania when he came down on the zip line. But when they always said it was a different type of entrance, I didn't realize that it was a different equipment that they were referring to. I always thought that the reason it was so it went so wrong was because it was not just the normal, I'm coming down as the Blue Blazer in my harness. I thought it was, he tried to do something like Shawn Michaels and fucking fell. So that changed my I did not realize that personally. Seeing the police photos, seeing that Martha Hart had the harness that was holding him, blew my fucking mind, for as small as that was, especially with hearing just don't pull this and you'll be fine. And they he didn't pull that, and he fell. Him brushing Jimmy Corderas, and saying look out as he's falling allegedly. We give so much shit to Jim Cornette for some of the dumb shit he says, but watching his interview in this, seeing his emotion, you totally have to sit back and go, yeah, I get, where you can't say that Jim Cornette doesn't have a love of professional wrestling, regardless of how stupid he is sometimes and things that he says. You could totally tell his passion and everything on this stuff. This was also at the end of it, when I personally was, especially after Mark Henry's speech, when he was inducted, he's like, let's just get Owen Hart in here already. I fully agree with Martha Hart. They want to donate something to the Owen Hart Foundation. Awesome. I'm not going to let a company that's responsible for his death celebrate his career. And is one of the most telling things that I have ever heard, and definitely one of the most real things that you can sit there and, as a person who has lost anybody, to think that anybody who is responsible for something wanted to celebrate that person, I'd be pissed off as well. Nick, I'll start with you. Your feelings on the Dark Side of the Ring final days of Owen Hart. Go for it.
One, I would have liked it to have been a 2-hour episode, just because I was highly invested in it from the beginning. And, it just, those things that you get really excited to watch, they just seem like they end too soon. And, for only being an hour, I was a little let down, but whatever. At the end of the episode, I was irritated. I was irritated at the fact that this did not have to fucking happen on any level, in any capacity. It just didn't have to happen. And the way that it was handled, when you see Vince McMahon's remarks to that news reporter, I think was just completely ridiculous. The fact that, you know, Martha had this hook that was connected to his equipment that she was able to just pull apart with, you know, no effort at all. It just, you know, it does break my heart, because Owen, you know, when I was growing up, that style of, like, the pure wrestling, that talent that he had, was what drew me into the business. Not to say that Owen Hart got me interested in wrestling, because he didn't, but that, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Just the way
Inspiration.
and the way he executed everything in the ring. When you look at this old footage, it's like that type of wrestling is not necessarily hard to come by now, but you just don't see it as much, where these guys are so technically sound that it's just fantastic to watch. So it just was super disheartening to see and to know all these different things that happened. And I know we still don't know the full and complete story. You only have an hour of what really happened. But I was also irritated too, because, you know, going online and looking at these people's comments, like, let him into the Hall of Fame, let him into the Hall of Fame. If you want to feel that way, that's fine. But what pisses me off is these people that get so down on Martha Hart for not letting him into the Hall of Fame, and they think that she did all these things to the Hart family based on one statement from Bret Hart and based on one statement from their lawyer. To me, it kind of feels like the Hart family is trying to save face to save their asses with WWE. So there's two sides to every story, and to just deliberately just smash on Martha Hart and say she's a fucking asshole and this, that, and the other, like, get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry, that really irritated me. All of that encompassing, but it was a great episode. It just, man, I don't know.
I understand. Sorry. Z.
All right, let me start by saying Martha Hart's a fucking asshole. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I'm the one on the show that always posts the Owen Hart memes, makes the Owen Hart jokes. Part of it comes from a place of love, because growing up, Owen was, you know, one of my favorite wrestlers, and this is one of those things, one of the deaths in wrestling that I've actually, like, researched, you know, since it happened. And one of the original reports was that, like, he had fallen, but he, like, got up on his own and started, like, walking around, and, like, he later died in the hospital from, like, internal bleeding, which to me was like, okay, that's why they went on with the show. You know what I mean? But now it's like, oh, you knew he was dead and you went on the show with it anyway. I mean, like, it just confirms what everybody already knows, that Vince McMahon is kind of a slime ball of a human being. Like, yeah, he won't make you do anything he wouldn't do, but if you die, he's gonna go on without you. Like, fuck off. That's terrible. I work with these kind of hard things. I wear one of these every single fucking day. You have to. It's through OSHA and my OSHA. Like, it has to be a certain tightness across your chest, like, everything's got to be modified for the person wearing it, whether, you know, small, medium, large, whatever. But then you have to modify it for yourself, and it's got to be a certain way, or it cuts the efficiency rate of it in half. If one thing is miscalculated, it cuts the efficiency in half. Now you're talking. I used the type of carabiner that they were talking about when he did the original Sting, like, drop, and they had him, like, you know, 10 feet off the ground, kind of just floundering there. As I think it was Steve Blackman just kind of berated him, and as they talked about in Dark Side of the Ring, this is the equipment that is supposed to be used with these. This is there also should have been what they call a retractable system as well, where if you start free falling, you only free fall about 6 feet, and then it yanks you back to stop this type. There should have been some kind of backup for this. There was not. And then not only that, but they replaced the carabiner with a fucking sailboat clip that's supposed to hold down the fucking curtain. That's supposed to hold no more than 150 fucking pounds on a quick release. Like, no, that was a bad idea for whoever fucking decided to do that. And the fact that the company was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Like, fuck you. You'll never hear me make another Owen Hart.
I don't see.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry for interrupting. I don't think that's, unless you're talking about the company, like fuck the company as in the riggers, or fuck WWE. Because if there's anything I am not going to solely throw on WWE, it's sure they hired that company. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, they're technically responsible for the death. But if I was to say, did Vince McMahon or did the safety regulations of WWE look at that stuff before Owen put it on and go, yeah, that's good? Or did they just say, these people know what they're doing, they'll do it the proper way? And then it was ultimately, if you're going in the hierarchy of things or the ultimate cause of his death being the riggers, then I think that falls more on the rigging company rather than WWE, even though it still is WWE's fault. I'm not trying to take any blame away from WWE. I'm talking about in what you were saying. I'm just trying to expand on your thought.
I'm saying fuck them both, because here's my thought process. As I mentioned in Dark Side of the Ring, when Owen did this kind of entrance, or anybody else for that matter, they normally had the number one rigging crew in the country. This time around, they had what they considered the number one rigging crew in that state. I don't remember
Kansas
what state.
City.
Kansas City. Okay, sorry. So they were in Missouri. So they had the number one in Missouri. So they played. But now
there's a Kansas City in Kansas.
I know. Whatever.
I'm just giving you shit. Go ahead.
So now, okay, now you're not working with the same company you normally do. And then you probably have orders from Vince like, no, we want it to look smooth, so it's got to be a quick release system. So they're like, well, we have this. And the company, the rigging company at this point is taking on all the liability. So I'm telling you, from a construction standpoint and from doing rigging myself, they did not go ahead with this plan without getting it okayed from somebody else, because then that takes the liability off of that company. It's no longer, well, we decided to do this. It's, no, he told us to do this, so that's what we did. You know what I mean? Right. So, they clearly, especially if they're certified and licensed and all that shit, they knew that this was wrong. So they probably got somebody's signature. And if they didn't, they're fucking dumb. But either way you look at it, both companies, it's not so much their fault. Accidents happen, right?
Right. He's getting a phone call. Or Z's phone died because he's not talking anymore. If he was getting a phone call, he'd still be talking. Expanding on his point, the other thing that stuck out heavily to me during what he was talking about of showing, all of that stuff, is Martha Hart said something that I had never taken into account before. We've heard that they kept this thing going, like Z was talking about, and that's fucked up. We all can agree that keeping that pay-per-view going was fucked up on WWE's part. But even more so, because just like Martha Hart said, and I never put together until that moment, it was a crime scene. A man died in that ring. His blood was on that apron, and it was a crime scene, an active crime scene, because you don't know, did he die from something messing up? Did he commit suicide? Obviously, more than likely it was not suicide. But again, you don't know what happened until you investigate that crime scene. Having a pay-per-view have 4 more matches after that happened, you're contaminating a crime scene, messing up the investigation for the crime scene, and not being able to fully discover what went wrong when it went wrong. Even the cops couldn't get in there until the fucking crowd was cleared out, right? Or at least until until Austin, and Taker finished.
Taker.
It's what?
Oh no, it was Austin Taker at the main event.
Yeah, that's what I said. Until Austin
For that
Taker
show.
finished, like they could not get in there to examine anything until after that pay-per-view was done and after everybody cleared from around the ring. Not so much the audience, but again, obviously the photos, the police photos, and everything they showed was in an empty arena. Yeah, we can all fully agree that WWE is a shitbag for going. And you can argue, oh, we took a poll from the talent, and the talent said that they wanted to continue. What talent? 2 fucking people? Because everyone in those matches looked off after that was supposed to happen. Smitty, your thoughts and views on this episode of Dark Side of the
Ring? My thoughts, I lost a little bit of respect for the WWE as a company because the way it seemed like the way Martha Hart was trying to explain it was they tried to make her seem like just a jilted widow. But there was negligence on. Also, felt like there was after watching everything, there was negligence on 2 parts on the ring company and WWE. Like I don't know. Like I think they weren't cut corner. I think they got the best of what they could get. Being that they were like Z was saying, and you were saying they usually get the best riggers in the nation. That somebody's got the best riggers in the area they were in. So I wouldn't say they were trying to cut corners. I think they got the best they could get at that point.
I'm not going to agree with that. If you're telling me that every other time that you're doing this, you get the best riggers in the country, and then all of a sudden for this one time, you're getting the best rigger in that area, that sounds like you're cutting corners.
But also,
hey,
wasn't like in the middle of running
that? Continue, Smitty.
Well, like I don't like when he was on the Blue Blazers thing. That's what Sting was still coming out from the rafters, and at that point, wasn't Ted Turner throwing way more money at people to do things around 1999?
What?
So wasn't Ted Turner throwing a lot of money at people to work for WCW at that time? That's when and Sting was coming out from the rafters around that time, wasn't
he? Yeah.
So what? Okay, so it was a Sunday. I don't know. There's just some things that there's certain factors that we still don't know. I think that Martha Hart has all rights to not want WWE to celebrate them.
Are you trying to say that WWE took the best in the area rather than the second best in the country because the second best wasn't available? Like, because Ted Turner may have been using someone for Sting. Like, I'm going to tell you right now that if that best in that area still does not seem like it was even top 5 in the country, right? So I feel like if you're getting a contract, hey, Callie, if you're getting a contract and everything like that, I just see your head peeking out.
Yeah, I was peeking over your shoulder like a parrot.
Right. If you're getting a contract like that for a big event with a big star, and that number 1 in the area is still not as good as 10 of them around the country, maybe you should be going for around the country, seeing as every other time you've done it, you've gotten number 1 in the country. I think that you're really giving WWE a lot of leeway with that one.
Yeah, maybe I am, but I still think
that Mikey.
Sorry, Nick. Yeah.
What I was going to say is, Mikey, you brought up one of the biggest points of that is the fact that was an active crime scene. So then my mind goes to, well, yeah, she's 100% correct. So in my mind, and I don't run a company like WWE, I'm not part of any type of crime scene investigation unit or anything like that. But yeah, you stop the event because it's a crime scene. So then I think, well, what if this was the NFL? And what if somebody had taken a massive hit and they died on the field within a minute? They just, bam, killed them. Would the NFL stop that game and keep things, as a crime scene? Or would they continue the game until it was over? I know they're 2 totally different things, but I definitely agree that the fact that it should have been considered a crime scene from the get-go, and it should have just been stopped. Refund these people their money, whatever, call it a day.
And let's not fucking forget, man, that WWE took 15 minutes and then went into another match. The NFL, like you were saying, if someone gets hit and they look injured, both teams fucking take a knee until everything's cleared about that person, until that person is in the back being tended to by medical professionals. That person has been carted off of the field, and everyone knows that this person is going to be okay. Like you said, that's an NFL game, and sure, it's two totally different things, but that's how the NFL handles a person getting injured, a leg broken, let alone a concussion or a severity person's knocked out. That person stays right there until everything is figured out by medical professionals. I 100% agree with that comment, Nick. Smitty, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, but I kind of agree with Martha. So in the long run, I disagree with Martha Hart about like not having WWE try to celebrate him because Hart also, I think the Hart family were, like Nick said, were saving face because wrestling has forever been their thing. That's how this family has made their money. A, B, C, and D. But
all right. That's it. Z, you were cut off because your phone died. What was the finish of your thoughts, sir? I took it in. I went with it. I just want to apologize. Quickly cutting you off. When you went away, that's when I brought up just like how you were talking about how everything was going on. The one thing that Martha Hart said about that, was that was an active crime scene. It was specifically right there, and it officially, whether he allegedly could have committed suicide, it was a fault of everything going on. There were so many things that should have been investigated immediately that WWE is a complete shithouse for continuing that paper.
As someone that has been part of an active crime scene where someone has lost their life, everything stops. Like the business at the time shut down, and all the witnesses had to wait there until the cops got there and talked to you and got rid of you. So yeah, no, she's absolutely right, and I never thought of it from that standpoint. Like all this time, like you know what I mean. Like this whole time, we've never really had her perspective on it, and now after hearing her perspective, it's like, wow, she's right. Like it should have stopped. Like right then and there. The minute they found out he passed away, it should have been it should have been stopped. Nothing should have been moved. They should have started collecting evidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there are just so many things you didn't know going into this. And then what really made me like really really sad, there's a perspective of this that I never ever thought about. A year later, you had Eddie, you had Benoit, you had Malenko, you had Angle. like Owen Hart was given all this goofy shit, and it pissed me off because I was such a Owen Hart mark. But he was literally a year away from like what I mean. As long as it went the way it should have, a career resurgence with all these new competitors, Edge, Christian, like the possibilities were endless. And unfortunately, this happened, and his life was cut short. And I've always been one of those people that I'm like, he needs to be in the Hall of Fame. And that changed Tuesday night when I found out that Martha Hart has started her own foundations with his name on it. And that's how she wants to share his legacy. And she doesn't want to contribute one dime to a company that, not only possibly caused the death of her husband, but also didn't even bother to stop once he died to figure out what was going on. And I think that's awesome. Like I no longer care if he's in the Hall of Fame or not, because his legacy is being celebrated in a different kind of way, as it should.
Now, WWE's lawyers issued a statement shortly after Martha was on the Jericho podcast, and that was one of the things with the Jericho podcast. There was a thing that I didn't mute you this time. There was a thing that she had stated on there, how she is. Many people have approached her about Owen stuff, and the minute that she finds out that something has any sort of inkling or monetary thing for the WWE, she steps away from it. She's like, nope, I won't. If WWE is in any way, shape, or form involved, I will not have a part of it. And Jericho was like, hey, you know, things have changed a lot. There's like instances that you can go into that have nothing to do with the WWE. And immediately when he said that, he's like, I could put you in contact with someone right after this. I was like, Owen Hart's about to get his own pro wrestling tea store. And sure as shit, 2 days later, they fucking announced it before the Dark Side of the Ring episode. That Owen Hart finally has his own store on Pro Wrestling Tees because it is not affiliated with any form of WWE. And again, the great thing about that is for this his Pro Wrestling Tees store. When people are saying that she's trying to make $1 on him, that money is going directly to the Owen Hart Foundation. So it's not even like Martha. It's like, hey, Martha Hart. Now, granted, it's the foundation that she's running with him, but the bottom line is it's going to a foundation, to a charitable cause. Z, you're about to say something because you unmuted yourself.
No, I bought one. bought both
I
of them,
did too. I bought one.
Yeah, nice. Nice.
But you know what? One more thing.
I bought our shirts.
One more thing that really pissed me off, and it really stopped me in my tracks, is when Jim Ross said that, you know, he was trying to get updates the whole time on what was happening, and all of a sudden Kevin Dunn in his ear said, he's dead, and you're back in 10, 9. I mean, to me, I can't even imagine what went through Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler's mind. I don't know how they even went forward after that. That's a true testament to the type of business guys that those two guys are, to just keep going, do their job, you know. And it sucks because I want them to have stopped the show, but you know, my heart sunk when they said that. It was just hard to believe.
If you read JR's first book, he talks about that moment, and he does it like a minute by minute analysis of like everything that was going on between him and Jerry and what they were thinking, and he like breaks down the whole situation. It's a great read.
I'm gonna have to check it out. Yeah,
that wasn't news to me, obviously, as well. That was one of the things I had already known, that he was told, and then had a 10-second count in. I will say that I did listen to Busted Open the next day, the Wednesday edition of Busted Open, and Bully Ray had a really strong point where he was like, from that moment alone, what you did to JR, giving him a 10-second adjustment period to finding out a friend of his, a person he cared about, died, to then have to say, hey, so it is my unfortunate responsibility to tell you that Owen Hart had passed away. He's like, right there, JR should have a WWE paycheck for life. What you did to him and bringing him into that situation, there should never, ever be JR's too old for this. People don't want to see him on TV. JR, in some form or fashion, should be locked in to a WWE contract. Here's your money. Here's what we want you to do. Unless JR says, I want to go announce or something like that, he should have been locked in for life just from that fucking moment there, because of what you as a company put on his shoulders, which is fucking unfathomable. What other sport does that? Everyone else would have fucking stopped the show. And you not only went live, but you made your broadcaster, the voice of the show, have 10 seconds to adjust to what he just found out about his friend. Absolutely fucked. Now, as I was saying, WWE's lawyer came out after Martha Hart appeared on Talk Is Jericho podcast, and WWE's lawyer had to say this. I swear to God, this is the first sentence of their statement. This is, quote, Jerry McDevitt is the longtime WWE lawyer, and he issued this statement to CBS Sports in response to Martha's comments. He said, quote, the reality is, we've never told our side of the story of what happened, at least not outside of court. We told it in court, but when she talks about the way the lawsuit unfolded over the years, it really isn't accurate what she's saying. What she did whenever this happened is she hired a lawyer in Kansas City who we caught essentially trying to fix the judicial selection process to get a judge that was more to their liking. We caught them and went all the way up to the Missouri Supreme Court. The Missouri Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to let that happen. They essentially appointed an independent judge to come in from outside of Kansas City to oversee the proceedings. We were basically trying to find out what happened that night. Martha was not even remotely interested in finding out what happened that night. She just wanted to use it as a vehicle to beat up a business that she didn't like that her husband was in, the wrestling business. Now, I'm going to make some comments on this. Number one, Martha fucking Hart went there to that exact spot with her kids to look over the actual crime scene. She was there. They climbed up on the scaffolding, kids included, to look at this. I'm going to call bullshit on she wasn't remotely interested in trying to find out what happened that night. She has all the fucking shit. She can look at it. She had the evidence on the show. She sure as shit tried to find out what happened that night. Saying that they were caught trying to fix the judicial selection process to get a judge that was more to their liking, that's every court situation. That's not just this. Everyone wants to try and find something that's going to work best for them. If you've dealt with anything, any type of judicial thing, and there's been a big case, if you've heard about anything, that's what those lawyers do. They're trying to find a judge that will side more with that. If there's a jury involved, they're trying to find a jury that they think will be on their outcome. Everything in the court process is like that. That's nothing specific to this case. So to use that is kind of bullshit as well, in my estimation. Nick, hearing the statement from WWE's lawyer, what are your thoughts?
I completely 100% agree with what you said. I mean, it's it's them trying to cover their ass more than 20 years later, because now you have this documentary coming out that's going to, shed some light on, what happened. And, it's all bullshit. It really is. And the fact that you want to say that Martha Hart was not interested to find out what happened, fuck you. Neither were you, because if you were, then there would have been a crime scene investigation when he fucking died. End of story. That's it.
Boom!
So,
yeah, can't argue that. Smitty, you got something to say? You should unmute yourself first.
We're going to say horseshit, bullshit. That was like WWE trying to cover their ass. Like, because I'm not married. Like, I'm not married. I don't have a single mother, but I'm pretty sure if somebody that you loved, somebody that you decided to commit your life to, died on a quote-unquote, I'm not going to say quote-unquote, but if someone died in an accident, you would want to know what happened. You would want to be 100% invested in trying to figure out what the fuck happened to that person.
Mm-hmm. Zeke,
this is her husband, father of her children.
After reading that, all I took away from that was basically these were the loopholes we used to get the court case out of Kansas City and into a more favorable judge that would hear our case. And another thing I heard was that Vince wanted it moved out of Kansas City because if he got it to Connecticut, he wouldn't have to pay punitive damages. Yeah. So but that's what lawyers do. They twist shit to make their case sound better. So
and I'll fully agree that Vince coming into this saying, "Hey, I want to offer you $17 million." Like, there's no argument that Vince went in there and said, "Hey, we fucked up. This was our fault. Let's offer this and move forward." And she said no to that, and it wasn't because of the money. She wanted her day in court. Sure, she may have wanted more money out of this and things like that, but it doesn't change the fact that she wasn't trying to settle. And then when talking to Jericho, her saying that the lawyer said, "Let's go in with this number just to get it, because then we can get interest on it if they decline it, so on and so forth." And then she said that she didn't even think about WWE saying, "Okay, yeah, for sure, I accept that offer." And then it being done, because when she was talking to the lawyer, said, in the end, it's all about the money that you get from this. And to her, in the end, that's not what it was about. It was about justice for the unnecessary death of her husband. Go ahead, Z.
Yeah. She wanted somebody to take responsibility. Like she wanted Vince to admit, like, "Hey, I fucked up." Like, and not just to her, like, "Hey, I fucked up. Here's some money." Like, no, I want you to say that in front of other people. I want them to know that you royally mishandled this entire situation, and my husband's death was basically caused because of your neglect. Like, I want you to come out in public and say that, and then we're good. Whatever. Fuck it.
Yeah. Any final, Smitty, I'll start with you. Are there any final thoughts on this last episode of Dark Side of the Ring? Or as a matter of fact, are there any final thoughts on the first 2 seasons of Dark Side of the Ring? Because after we get that, we're going to be finished. From everybody.
I agree with Nick on what he said. Like, that, this is something that probably deserved like a 2-parter, like the Benoit premiere.
Mm-hmm.
And with season 3, I'm really looking forward to what they do with season 3.
Have they announced anything with season 3 yet? Obviously,
Well,
I'm excited for season 3. I didn't know if you had like heard something like, oh, this is one of the things they want to hopefully uncover in season 3, or you're just saying you're looking forward to it because you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it if there is one.
Okay, Nick, your final thoughts on the final episode or the entire 2 seasons of Dark Side of the Ring?
Not really on the final episode, but this is it's a great series. I mean, every episode so far has, got me invested from start to finish, even if it was something that I wasn't familiar with that happened. Especially like I watched the Dino Bravo one the other day. I had no idea that happened to Dino Bravo, and I was like, holy shit, like, it's fucking crazy. So yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that, this is going to end anytime soon. I'm really looking forward to season 3.
All right. Z, your final thoughts on the episode and or the entire series as a whole?
The episode was very valid. I walked away for what felt like the first time in a long time learning something new from one of these Dark Side of the Ring things. They do put a nice. I like the narrator. I hope they for season 3. I hope they keep Jericho on as the narrator. But I don't know what going forward. They're kind of running out of stuff. I mean, unless they start digging into. I mean, stuff I probably don't even know about, which is cool.
Right.
I'll still be interested. But I'm just thinking, of all the scandals in wrestling, they just did, 16 of them, which it doesn't seem like a lot, but the ones they did were pretty oh shit, oh, that really happened. I'm sure there's more, but how many more? How many seasons are we going to get out of this? Or are they going to put a twist on it to, keep it going? You know what I mean?
6 seasons in a movie.
What's that?
I said 6 seasons in a movie. It was a joke.
Okay.
Yeah, not funny. Or did I understand it? But yeah, no, I always look forward to seeing more on wrestling. So, I just hope they don't run out of material. That's all.
Well, as long as Vince McMahon's in the wrestling business, I don't think they'll ever run out of material.
Dude, he looks worse and worse as each season goes on. It's like, man, Vince is a guy's guy. Now you're like, Vince is a fucking slime ball. Fuck him. Yep. Especially like 80s Vince. 80s Vince was a prick.
Yeah, 100%. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us. AEW's Double or Nothing was in the books. Dark Side of the Ring in the books. When we come back next week, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the Backlash pay-per-view and the build that we have gotten into that. If we don't have a specific show about something else, who fucking knows? But yeah, thank you so much for listening. We got some new shirts. If you go check out breakingdownthering.com, you can check out our America Lion shirts, Breaking Down the Ring logo, the Shot Club logo with America, a couple tank tops we put up there. So, sun's out, Brian Pillman accessory out. Yeah.
Sun's out, guns out. Got it.
So that is it for us. Make sure you go breakingdownthering.com. You can follow us on all of our social media. Check out some of the new merch that we have up. We are your ring crew.
The newly crowned and news BDR champion, Mr. Smith Kishi.
Go Nick 19.
You got my property,
How
bitch.
How can you be newly crowned and the new champion? It makes no sense. Plus, look, Mikey's got the belt. You got to fight Brody Lee. This is Plain White Z signing off.
And me, the star of AEW's All Out promo, the almighty one, Mikey himself. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again so much for listening and watching, and we are out.